while the Night Stalker. Richard Ramirez, who had terrorized Southern California in 1985, languished on death row in San Quentin. Joseph James DeAngelo, a.k.a. the original Night Stalker, remained at large for another 33 years. He had started out as the Visalia ransacker in 1973. Adding rape to his repertoire, he became the East Area Rapist, or East Side Rapist, or East Bay Rapist. Then came the killings as the Orange Coast Serial Killer, or the Creek Bed Killer, or the Diamond Knot Killer. He became the original Night Stalker because his M.O. closely resembled Ramirez's, raping and killing his victims in their own homes. But then he went on to become the Golden State Killer in 2013, only to be caught in 2018 after decades of raping and killing thanks to an open-source DNA website. The killer's training ground was the city of Visalia in California's San Joaquin Valley and nearby Exeter, where DeAngelo was a policeman at the time, often responding to crimes he had committed. In the mid-1970s, he committed more than 100 burglaries in the area, rummaging through drawers, strewing items around his victim's house, rearranging things and stealing small, insignificant items. He would often ignore banknotes and high-value objects in favor of coins and trading stamps, indulging in meaningless acts of vandalism and scattering women's underwear over the floor. Wearing gloves, he'd leave no fingerprints, and, undetected, a burglar with his M.O. could commit up to 12 break-ins a day. Things got more serious when, on the 11th of September 1975, he broke into the house of Claude Snelling at 12:15 a.m. and tried to abduct his 16-year-old daughter, Elizabeth. Running to her rescue, Snelling was shot twice in the chest with a .38 caliber handgun. The masked intruder let Elizabeth Snelling go and fled, leaving behind a stolen bicycle. Claude Snelling staggered back into the house and died. He had been a professor at the College of the Sequoias, where DeAngelo had trained to be a police officer. A reward of $4,000 was offered, but the murder remained unsolved until DeAngelo admitted to it in 2018. With a killer on the loose, the police redoubled their interest. On the evening of the 12th of December 1975, they were staging a stakeout in an avenue the ransacker was thought to frequent. A masked man was seen entering the backyard of a house. Confronting him, Detective William McGowan fired a warning shot. The man went to pull off his mask as if to surrender. Then, suddenly, he vaulted the garden fence, pulled a gun, and shot McGowan. As other officers ran to McGowan's aid, the prowler made off, dropping his plunder again, coins and trading stamps, and leaving the tracks of tennis shoes. In August 1979, DeAngelo quit the burglary unit at Exeter and moved to Auburn, a district of Sacramento. The crime spate followed him, and the so-called Cordova Cat burglar began a series of burglaries in the suburbs of Carmichael, Citrus Heights, and Rancho Cordova. Breaking into one house, he was confronted by a woman brandishing a gun. A shot was fired, and he fled. She gave a description that later matched that of the East Side Rapist, who would soon stalk the East area of the city. As the East Side, or East Area Rapist, DeAngelo committed 50 rapes in California between 1976 and 1986, and killed at least 12. His first 15 victims in late 1976 and early 1977 were almost all women at home alone, though one attack was in a parking lot. In one case, he seems to have waited until the woman's husband left the house before he attacked. Other victims included a 16-year-old girl who was raped and an 18-year-old youth in East Sacramento who was shot in the stomach when he confronted and chased the prowler. The perpetrator escaped even though a police cordon was thrown around the neighborhood. At the beginning of November 1976, a reward of $2,500 was offered for information leading to his arrest. That was later increased to $25,000, with a local dentist adding $10,000 to the $15,000 offered by the Sacramento Bee's secret witness program. The Bee said that the perpetrator entered houses through a window like a cat burglar and gave a description. He was white with a pale complexion, between 5 feet 8 and 6 feet tall, 23 to 35 years old, with a medium build and dark hair that hung over his ears and collar. Later descriptions make him younger, between 18 and 25, and of a slighter build. Though muscular, it was thought he weighed 140 to 180 pounds, 10 to 13 stone or 64 to 82 kilograms, and was extremely agile. He had worn a mask, but descriptions are vague as to what kind. The newspaper said, "He also wore gloves, so left no fingerprints. He has worn military-type boots and black tennis shoes. His weapons have included a revolver, knife, a stick, and a club. He has cut and beat his victims, but none severely." The Bee added chillingly, "He frequently commits repeated attacks on individual victims over a period of 3 hours. This was a serial killer waiting to happen." After April 1977, he began attacking couples too, targeting low-risk victims' lawyers, medical professionals, computer programmers, people with a great deal of physical strength, who were unlikely to fight back. He stalked upper-middle-class neighborhoods looking for victims who lived in single-story homes. Breaking in late at night, he then pulled a handgun. Always well-prepared, he brought pre-cut lengths of rope and cord with him to bind his victims. He varied his pattern slightly when teenagers were involved. In one case, he raped 2 sisters who were at home alone together. He also molested a 13-year-old girl while her mother was tied up, and raped a 15-year-old babysitter in front of her 8-year-old ward. It was noted that near the houses where the attacks took place, there was usually a drainage ditch, vacant field, new construction, park area, or one of the levees of the American River that runs through Sacramento, so he could make his approach and exit with little chance of being spotted. He entered a residence at night through an unlocked sliding glass door or window, although he pried open doors and windows if necessary. Once inside, he threatened the victim with a knife, gun, or club. He tied them up with the ligatures, often shoelaces, he brought with him. Then he used electrical tape and strips of toweling he found in the house to further bind, gag, and blindfold his victims. He usually cut telephone wires and covered a lamp to dim the lighting. When attacking a couple, he would often force the man to lie on the floor with perfume bottles or plates stacked on top of him while he raped the female, threatening to kill them both if the man moved enough to tip the bottles onto the floor or rattle the dishes. He spent between 1 and 3 hours in the house, sexually assaulting the victim several times. In between the assaults, he would wander about the house, eating and drinking. Sometimes he would even go out. Beverage containers were found outside, where the suspect apparently stood, watching for anyone approaching the house. He would also look through photograph albums and lingerie drawers stealing small items of costume jewelry, class rings, earrings, and items of little value. Because of the way he moved in and out of the house, the victims rarely knew when the attacker had left the premises. It would usually take them between 30 minutes and an hour before they were able to free themselves. Sometimes they would be unable to do so and would have to wait for assistance. On the 7th of May 1977, while attacking a couple in Carmichael, the rapist said that he would kill his next two victims. This was what the police had long feared, but he stayed his hand when he attacked a couple in the south area of Sacramento, near the office of the dentist who had put up the $10,000 reward. Gun and lock sales soared. It became plain to the police that the attacker had detailed knowledge of his victims. He knew that the father of one victim was out of town for the weekend, and that another's father was on vacation. The rapist knew families' habits and work hours. He caught one victim when her sister was at friends, and her parents were at a Christmas party. Another when her parents were out. Another when her parents were away for the weekend. He knew the schedule of spouses, catching one lone woman when her husband had relocated to the Bay Area where she was to follow. Another when her husband was on a business trip. Another when her husband had just left for work. And a fourth when her husband had started on the night shift just 2 days before the attack. And he attacked one woman who was separated from her husband while her son was visiting his father. His knowledge could be thorough. He knew the purse of one victim was in her car. In another attack, he knew where the garage door opener was. In one particular case, the outside lights were on a timer, and he knew how to turn them off. Explaining one attack, the assailant later said that he had seen the victim at Mather Officers Club and knew her husband was a captain in the Air Force. However, his intelligence was not always 100% accurate. In one case, he mentioned that his victim attended American River College. She did not, but a neighbor who strongly resembled the victim had attended the college. It was thought that the offender had been in the other woman's home as well, though he had not attacked the occupant. It was not clear how he got his information unless it was from close observation of his intended victims. Footprints from herringbone-patterned tennis shoes were discovered under the bathroom window in numerous cases where he could have overheard conversations. He also returned to the same area repeatedly, making maximum use of the intelligence he had already gathered. The police almost caught the attacker on the 12th of December 1977 when officers spotted a man wearing a ski mask on a stolen bicycle on the Watt Avenue Bridge in the east area of Sacramento. He was seen again 2 hours later by city patrolmen near an apartment complex on La Riviera Drive near Watt, a place where he had struck 3 times before, but still he eluded them. The longer his career as a serial rapist got, the more violent, cruel, abusive, and threatening he became. He made 9 more increasingly savage attacks before he finally lived up to his word and became a killer. On the 2nd of February 1978, he shot dead Brian K. Maggiore, a sergeant at Rancho Cordova Air Force Base, and his wife of 18 months, Katie. They confronted a prowler when walking their dog down a quiet residential street. Katie was shot in the head. Brian was pursued into the backyard of a home on La Alegria Drive, where he was shot fatally in the chest. The suspect was spotted by residents as he fled the scene. He was described as white, in his mid-20s, 6 feet to 6 feet 2 in tall, with dark hair and wearing a brown leather coat with a large stain on the back, dark pants and shoes. He might have been with an accomplice, witnesses said. A pair of shoelaces was found at the crime scene. 2 weeks later, composite drawings of the suspect were published in the Sacramento Bee. After that, the East Area rapist never struck in the Sacramento area again. The perpetrator moved on to the surrounding area: Stockton, Modesto, Danville, Fremont, Concord, San Ramon, Davis, and Walnut Creek. A student at the University of California, Davis was attacked in her apartment with extreme physical violence on the 7th of June, 1978. A month later, another woman was attacked in Davis and raped in front of her 2 sons. And on the 25th of June, 1979, a 13-year-old girl was attacked while her parents were in another room asleep. On the 1st of October, 1979, a man in a ski mask entered the home of a couple in Goleta, Santa Barbara County. They were awakened, a flashlight shining in their eyes. The woman was ordered to tie up her boyfriend with pre-cut lengths of cord that the attacker had brought with him, while the masked intruder ransacked the house, supposedly looking for money. The woman managed to get out of the house and scream for help. The intruder pulled her back inside. While he was doing this, the man escaped into the backyard. While the intruder pursued the man, the woman escaped again, running into the arms of a neighbor who had been alerted by her screams. Having lost control of the situation, the intruder fled. He was seen escaping on a bicycle down a creek bed. After this couple had thwarted him, the attacker turned to killing in earnest. 2 months later, on the 30th of December, 1979, another couple were attacked a few blocks away. Dr. Robert Offerman and Alexandria Manning were found shot, dead. Both of them were tied up and Manning had been raped. Examination of the crime scene led detectives to believe that Offerman had managed to loosen his bindings and lunge at the intruder before he was shot and killed. Neighbors who heard the gunshots thought that they were firecrackers. On the 13th of March, 1980, the stalker moved just 35 miles down the coast to Ventura, where he killed Lyman and Charlene Smith. Charlene was raped and both were bludgeoned to death with a log from their fireplace. The Smiths were found still bound in their bedroom by their 12-year-old son. Their wrists and ankles had been tied with drapery cord, and an ornate Chinese knot was used on their wrists. Although there were similarities to the attacks in Goleta, the Smiths' murder was not immediately linked to the others. Ventura detectives suspected Joe Alsip, a former business partner of Lyman Smith, who was later exonerated. Keith and Patrice Harrington were the next victims. They were also bludgeoned to death in their home in Dana Point on the 19th of August, as the killer moved south of Los Angeles for the first time. This time, the murderer untied his victims before escaping, but left some cord lying on the bed. He took the murder weapon with him when he left. A single burnt match was found in the home by investigators. Patrice had been brutally raped before her death. Law enforcement agencies theorized that the male victims had been bludgeoned to death first. Then the terrified female victims were raped before they too were killed by bludgeoning. Next, the killer attacked 28-year-old Manuela Withun on the 5th of January, 1981, while her husband was in the hospital ill. Her killer entered her home in Irvine, Orange County. He raped her and beat her to death, then disappeared, taking with him the bindings along with the murder weapon and, curiously, Withun's answering machine, a lamp, and a crystal curio. As in the Smiths case, burnt matches were found in Withun's home. Cherry Domingo and Gregory Sanchez were killed on the 27th of July, 1981, back in Goleta, just half a mile from the scene of the Offerman Manning murders. Sanchez had been shot once in the face and then bludgeoned to death. Cherry Domingo was simply bludgeoned. Again, the killer took the ligatures he had used to bind his victims and the murder weapon with him. The attacker's familiarity with the area led police to believe he lived near the San Jose Creek. Then, for 5 years, the killer lay low. He struck one last time on the 4th of May, 1986, killing Janelle Lisa Cruz, only a mile from Withun's home in Irvine. Her family was away on vacation in Mexico at the time. Cruz was raped and beaten to death like the previous victims. The murder weapon was thought to be a pipe wrench that was found to be missing from her home. Cruz was attacked soon after a male friend had left her house. The man told police he had heard strange noises outside Janelle's bedroom window before he left, but she said they came from the washing machine. Then the killer vanished completely. In 1977 and 1978, he had begun to call his victims, threatening to kill one of them. He phoned the police, taunting them, and sent a poem to Sacramento's mayor's office, the local TV station, and the Sacramento Bee. Another victim got a call in 2001 after the Sacramento Bee had published an article reporting that the original Night Stalker had been linked to the East Area Rapist by DNA evidence, making him the Golden State Killer. Well, the trail had gone well and truly cold in 2016 when the FBI uploaded the DNA profile to a genetic heritage website and found 10 to 20 people who had the same great-great-great-grandparents as the Golden State Killer. From that, it was possible to construct a family tree. That narrowed the field down to 2 suspects. DeAngelo was finally identified when samples of his DNA were covertly collected from the door handle of his car and a tissue in his garbage can. Arrested, he pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and 13 counts of kidnapping. He was sentenced to life without possibility of parole.